I was never one of the other mothers. It was not my bag. And I was really never accepted by them. That was hard for me.
Yeah, and it was hard for me that you were not accepted.
Why was that hard for you?
Oh, well, you being misunderstood has formed my entire personality, good and bad. I feel like so many other of my friends and stuff have been thinking about having kids or like their biological clocks. It was not even on my radar until like 2 years ago when I was like, oh fuck. Because otherwise having kids is like nowhere near on my mind.
You know, grandparents are different. And you get another chance at everything too.
For you, that would be not protecting them from ever feeling pain.
Oh God. I was in so much pain that I wasn't even aware of, that I thought that there was a way to stop you from having any pain. Little did I know that that's completely impossible. And not only impossible, but that pain is actually a teacher. Welcome everyone to the second episode of the Me and Lily series.
The series within the series.
The series within the series of our overall podcast. Once a month feature of me and Lily. And this is the second one. And we are very excited to be discussing our respective journeys towards motherhood in honor of Mother's Day, which has a very special place in our hearts because obviously Style Like You is all about a mother and a daughter.
Well, it comes from the hearts and souls of a mother and a daughter.
Although many others are your inspirations and guidance. But a mother and daughter did create this, the two of us. And Mother's Day is especially significant in that way. And this moment is in particularly significant because Lily is now at a stage in her life where she is thinking about motherhood for the first time, which we're going to talk about. And that's really intense for me because it also is a intersection or turning point for me to have a daughter who's actually thinking about being a mother. That's kind of crazy. I have no idea how that even happens. It's really wild. And so we've been reflecting on our different journeys and our different perspectives, and we're excited to share it with all of you.
Yes. Yeah. So honest conversation with each other about paths, honest conversation with each other about paths to motherhood. Mine is TBD, but I am curious to talk to my mom a little bit more about her path to motherhood, which she did at a younger age and made certain sacrifices that I'm currently thinking about whether I want to make or when I would want to make such a sacrifice. And yeah, as my mom mentioned, I'm in my mid-30s and I've mentally stayed in my 20s, I guess. And maybe until you have kids, you kind of feel like you're like the same age or something. Or, I don't know. I still feel like a kid, but yet I have in my 30s and as I've approached my mid-30s felt an increasing like pressure of the biological clock ticking, and it kind of came out of nowhere. I've done so much work through StyleLikeU, unlearning many kinds of societal pressures that are put upon people and women and that were put upon myself, and tried to free myself from such societal pressures. And this is the one, oh, sorry. Oh, that's funny. That happened in the last episode too, where my alarm clock went off where to take my supplements.
That is hilarious.
For my egg freezing, which I forget to do like half the time, let's not tell my doctor. Hopefully everything's going to be okay. What was I saying? Yeah, just like this is the one pressure that feels, the idea that you have to tick certain boxes at a certain time. This is the one box that like you kind of have to tick. If you want to do it, you got to tick it at a certain time because there's science involved in biology. And so it's a real fucking bummer. It's really annoying. So we thought now would be a good time to have a chat about it. I'm going to start by interviewing my mom a little bit about her journey to motherhood and some of the decisions that she made, and then she's going to interview me. So Mom, do you want to just start by telling us a little bit about like what your decision looked like, where you were at in your life?
I was in my late 20s. I was very much in a great flow in my career as a fashion editor at Condé Nast Publications. I had been part of the original staff that started Self magazine, and I loved what I was doing.
Did you plan to get pregnant, or did you and Dad just accidentally get pregnant? I feel like it was an accident. Yeah, I feel like knowing the two of you.
I never thought about planning.
You're not a planner.
I don't plan. I didn't plan. I just did it. It just felt very aligned. I felt happy. I loved being pregnant.
I wasn't the first one in her womb, just FYI. There was one before me.
I loved being pregnant, especially the first time because it was less exhausting, to not have another child. I can't even believe it when I look back on it, but I just jumped into it. I was freelancing when I had Lewis, and it was incredibly hard. It was very, very, very stressful. Freelance styling is one of the most stressful, demanding jobs imaginable. People don't realize it, but it's 14 or 15 hour a day nonstop. There's no breaks, there's no downtime. And also when you're freelancing, you pretty much have to say yes a lot because you never know when the next job is going to come. And it's a very stressful thing to do when you have a baby. And then I had 2 babies, and I would take you both with me this trip in the Adirondacks. You had a really bad cold. You were a really small baby. I had to get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to be on set. And I was up all night with you suctioning phlegm out of your nasal passages. And then going and standing on a set for 12 or 14 hours. I took someone with me who was helping me with the 2 of you. But being in situations like that, or being at a studio, and I couldn't wait for the end of the day. I couldn't wait to run home. And then often you'd be asleep and someone else was taking care of you all day. And I was miserable. And I ultimately quit. I ultimately stopped doing it.
Yeah. And so I want to just clarify for people, like you were really in a moment of your career where you were really like successful, top of your game, like things were really at a high point for you. And then you decided to quit. And so what was that like for you?
So hard.
And why did you decide to quit?
It was so not balanced. I wasn't doing something that really facilitated a moderate kind of balance between being a mother and working. And Tim, your dad, my husband, had an equally very, very demanding job as well. There was no question really which one of us would have been the one that quit our jobs. One paid much better, which is all part of how fucked up everything is in the world, basically, when it comes to men and women, and especially then.
Is that a man-women thing or just the type of job?
The type of job, both, all of it. And it's also just typical of the world that creative things are not, as well paid a lot.
It's actually funny. I've never thought about like what would have happened if dad was the one that quit and did Mr. Mom, and like you stayed and became this like high-powered like fashion executive. Yeah. That is a funny like alternate reality to try to picture. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Anyway, okay. So, and then when you did quit, can we hear about like what that was like for you to?
It is so hard because I loved what I was doing, and being creative is so important to me. And being with people is important, and being inspired and all the stimulation. And it suddenly left. First of all, most of my friends in the fashion industry did not have kids.
Which is probably rare. Like I'm sure still most people in your generation were having kids at that time or earlier. Your industry was a little more like doing it later or never.
Yeah, I was the only one in it, and it left me very alone. Mm-hmm. Where are all my friends? Where's my world? Where's my life? Who am I? Mm-hmm. I had to do a lot of who am I's, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I remember being in the park when we finally moved out of the city with other people, other mothers, and I didn't relate. I didn't connect. I was never one of the other mothers. I was not. It was not my bag. Like
you weren't a soccer mom that was like invested in like the school gossip or something.
No, and I was really never accepted by them. That was hard for me.
Yeah, and it was hard for me that you were not accepted.
I didn't fit in.
Yeah,
I didn't fit in. I didn't fit in being in the suburbs. I didn't fit in as a mom in the suburbs. Why was that hard for you?
Oh. Well, you being misunderstood has formed my entire personality, good and bad. You being misunderstood as a mom in our small town in the suburbs, and because you're so eccentric and unique and passionate and intense and all the things that you are, I process that a lot in my adult life in therapy. I look at it as one of the roots of my like perfectionism and a lot of the ways that I basically just decided at a young age, like as a survival tool or skill, was like I was just decided to be like perfect and like really likable and really good in order to sort of prove to the world that my mom was a good mom and that like if I was good and was like so together, then they would no longer misunderstand her as like whatever they judged about her, looking at how she dressed or looking at how she was and thinking maybe she's irresponsible or she's this or that. And I was like, no, they're going to see through me and how I am that she's good. And also I think I just felt safer. I knew if I was good, I would be judged less too. It was selfishly about like me being judged less, but also about like somehow I took on the responsibility of correcting your image. Which obviously has led to also some struggles of mine as an adult. To undo that, like feeling like I'm only safe if I'm like always liked and perfect and yada, 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 yada. Yeah, so.
It's so interesting how the whole scene is such a microcosm for everything that's wrong and everything we ultimately did together.
Okay, go on.
Because the idea that being a certain way as a mom is the right way or not the right way, looking a certain way, dressing a certain way, acting a certain way, being part of the group mentality. I mean, at the same time that I was struggling and missed my work friends and my career and what I was doing, I loved being a mother. It was such a need for me to give you everything that I didn't get in terms of allowing the two of you to be whoever you wanted to be, just asking you what you liked, what you wanted to wear, what you liked to eat, what you like to do, just giving you the ability to be whoever you wanted to be was such a healing thing for me. And I loved sharing everything with you. Dad and I would go to rock concerts or anything we went to, and I can't wait to bring them. I can't wait just to share everything of life and the joy of life and the excitement of life. And I just remember being so into all of it and doing, and the things, and just sharing all the things that you loved and that we loved and together. And yeah, so as to be judged as not a good mom because...
And honestly, I don't even know if I made that up. I just had this feeling that you were different, and that like seemed scary to me somehow, like compared to the rest of the town. And it seemed to make you more like vulnerable to judgment. And I was like, I don't like that, so I'm going to be not different and I'm going to be perfect.
Well, I think it's like everything. I think everything we're taught to submit from the get-go in life. That's what we're really coming out from under, is this idea that we have to be palatable and have permission to be ourselves. But I did ultimately find a new passion and path while being a mother, and that was teaching yoga and meditation. And I found my whole spiritual side, and I was able to have the balance between motherhood and being myself and career and making money and all of that. And it was amazing. I had this incredible, then whole new exploration. And I ended up, being good at what I did. And I ended up discovering a whole new part of myself that I never knew existed, which was my inner self.
And I don't know if I feel like we should probably switch to my part, but I feel like somewhere in here we should talk about like the brutal moment that you went back into the industry and had to start again.
Yeah, so I remember when I was teaching yoga that I would take my shoes off because they would be the only thing reminiscent of my passion and love for clothing, because I was often in yoga clothes. And I thought, I'm not done with this. This is a part of me that's not finished. Gives me the chills when I think about it. It would be there that I would continue to express myself so that they would be wild in some way or, just special or unique. And so I ended up eventually going back into the fashion industry, freelancing. And I went back to all of my friends and relationships from those early days, and they were all the heads of companies or the creative directors or editor-in-chiefs of magazines. So I was able to go back pretty quickly, fairly easily. I had no assistance. I had no support system. I was doing everything myself. And it was, again, going back to the bottom again.
Yeah, you said, I feel like framing it as easy is not what it was. You were like basically back to being like at the complete like beginning of your career again. It sounds like you got in the door because of your friends,
got in the
but
door.
It's not like you went to the top or like continued where you left off. You were like back to like kind of being a newbie.
I had to learn how to do everything again. Everything now was computers and online, and it was a totally different world, a much more corporate world, and it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, and I slowly had to figure out how to do all of that again and do it in this new way, and I did. It was a really big dare and a really big risk, and I took it, and I actually can't even believe that I did it.
From my perspective, because I was aware enough to know what it was like when you went back into the industry, and like, while some things about it were, you know, you had some doors opened, like it was actually really hard. You really did sort of, in choosing to have kids at the age that you did and quit when you did in order to focus on kids, like you really did sort of like lose the certain kind of like prestigious fashion career that you may have had otherwise. Like you found some success when you returned. You did pretty much like sacrifice for us and for motherhood, like that like full on career that you maybe would have had in an alternate reality.
But the irony of it all, in trying to plan to not fail or to have the success that you want or to put that off, now where I am compared to all of those people is in the more powerful place.
Well, it's no competition, Mom. In the feeling of failure and in the feeling of things being not right for you, and when you return to the industry, that you created something out of that whole and it became StyleLikeU, and that's what you're saying?
Yeah, but what I mean by powerful place, I don't mean powerful place by external power.
Yeah.
Being outside of it ultimately led to me finding my truth and finding my purpose and doing one of the, creating StyleLikeU, which has been probably, next to having kids, the most important thing that I've ever done, and one of the big reasons of why I feel that I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. I don't mean, I mean powerful from an internal place and from a place of alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And had I stayed in the more linear place and taken the straighter path, let's say, I may not have found that.
Mm-hmm. There
There is no such thing as an outcome that our limited minds can understand is the right outcome.
Mm-hmm.
The outcome, we have to leave the outcome to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
You just follow your intuition, like everything else. So, Lily,
Yes.
as far as intuition, your intuition in the moment goes,
Yes.
let's hear what you're feeling. Maybe in response to my journey and my decisions, and then where you are at this moment.
My intuition says that to me that I'm not ready to have kids, and that there are certain things that I really want to accomplish and create prior to doing that, that I have not yet done.
I just had a crazy aha moment.
What?
Well, you're coming at it from having done this big thing already.
So? You would think that would make me ready.
No, well, I think it's fascinating. So what are the things that you want to accomplish now?
Like, so I as I kind of said earlier, I feel like so many other of my friends and stuff have been thinking about having kids or like their biological clocks, or just this was more on their minds earlier. For me, it was not even on my radar until like 2 years ago, when I was like, oh, fuck, the biological clock. I better think about that. Because otherwise, having kids is like nowhere near on my mind. It's felt like this annoying kind of nuisance of pressure on my shoulder, nagging at me like, oh, you now need to think about this thing that I actually otherwise do not feel currently called to think about. One of the things that it has felt more of an urgency to do is like take some of the space that I'm currently taking outside of StyleLikeU, and basically I want to direct documentary films, and I felt like I was procrastinating taking that leap. I was sort of comfortable in what I knew, which was only to work on StyleLikeU 24/7, and wasn't jumping off that cliff for myself. And this pressure has made me feel like, oh, I better do that because I have this whole other like leg of my career that I would like to get going. And that all matters to me more right now than having a kid. And it also put a pressure on me as far as like I met my partner 2 years ago, which was on one level a relief because obviously like that was meeting the person that I might do this with, but also that was like this fear of like figuring out if he's the one or something because I don't have time to fuck that decision up because if I go too many years in this relationship that's not going to be the one that do parenting with, then will I then miss the window? So it put a lot of pressure on the beginning of the relationship. If I fall too far or too hard and it's not the person that I want to have kids with or he's not ready or whatever, like then the clock might pass me by. It's the one thing, as I said, like the one thing like that if I want to do that pressure, I can't just avoid it or unlearn it completely. It is a real thing, the science of it all. So I've been processing it for now a couple of years and I feel a little less stressed about it, but yeah, it's still a new weight that I didn't experience like in my 20s or something.
What are your thoughts around having a kid at this age or as opposed to your 40s or late 30s? Having waited already till now. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
My dream is to do it as late as I biologically can if I do it. So like in doing it in my early 40s or something seems awesome. I like hope that that's biologically possible for myself. So that's why I'm freezing my eggs right now. No, not right now, but I'm about to start, which has been something I've been thinking about doing for a few years just to be able to like grant to sort of as a way to like take care of my future self in case I do end up wanting to do this one day. And I do prioritize other things right now, like my career and freedom. And
first of all, I can't even believe that you're freezing your eggs. It's just that we're at that you're at that stage of life is just, it's really it's an emotional place as a mother when your daughter is at that place and thinking about these things.
So it's funny because today literally is the first day that I like took my estrogen pill. I have to take like a week of, 8 days of estrogen pills. And then in a week I start, or like whenever I start my period next, I start like my injections for 10 days. So you have to like inject yourself with whatever hormones or something for 10 days until you ovulate. And then they do the egg retrieval. And so it's funny that we're recording this today because, it's the first kind of official day of like ingesting anything, prescription-y into my body that's like setting this process into motion. And it also is the day that a really, really good, my best girlfriends, she found out that her IVF worked today and she's pregnant. And I found out today, she called me. And then also my other really good friend who's dealing with IVF just texted me saying that she just did her egg retrieval. Basically, all this to say, most of my friends are getting pregnant. And most of them are already having trouble because they're in their mid-30s. And it's just, I guess, complicated the older you get. And they're all having trouble. And they're all doing the same thing I'm doing of taking all this. They're doing the same process that I'm doing, but they're actually trying to get pregnant now. But I'm the one that's not, maybe the only one that's not actually doing it now, like the pregnant part.
How do you feel about that?
Maybe it would be tougher for me if I felt like my community in LA, where I live right now, was mostly parents. I mostly feel excited for them and mostly feel like happy that someone's leading the charge and I can like follow in their footsteps later. But I think it would be more complicated for me if I felt like everybody in my current like LA friend group was having babies and I was alone in the not. There's like a lot of non-traditional situations in my current community. So I feel a little less like, oh fuck, I'm behind or like I'm going to get left behind. But yeah, I guess at moments in like my lower moments or more fear moments or anxious moments, I'm like, oh no, like am I, I hope this risk of not doing it now and not being as like sure of the plan like works out.
I have to say that the people that in particular, I know one couple who had their first and only child in their 40s are far better parents.
Okay, but Mom, we have to stop with the better and the just great parents. Let's just say great parents. Oh, then you. Okay, that's fine. You can say that about yourself. Why? Because they're just more together and they know themselves better.
Yeah, I just think that they're at a stage in their life where they were just very ready and thoughtful about it, and there was a level of gratitude, calmness, centeredness, maturity. Mm-hmm. That we didn't feel that either one of us had.
Right.
And I feel that they are able to give their child a lot of things that I would have liked to have done had I been at a more emotionally intelligent place and in a more self-aware place.
Yeah, and then we haven't gotten to this, but there's also just like the existential, I'm 70-30 or 80-20 on the like pretty sure I would like to do this someday if it was just about my personal desire to have a kid. But when I bring the society into the picture that this person would be entering and the state of the planet, that definitely goes down to maybe where it was 80-20 at 70-30, where it was 70-30 at 60-40 maybe. I feel really conflicted about also just the potential selfish nature. I really want to experience pregnancy. Like it feels like sci-fi to me of like what my body is capable of doing. But I'm a little bit like conflicted about that being a selfish thing because A, there's like so many kids in the world already that like probably need parents, and B, I just feel a little nervous about, I'm pretty concerned about just the world that I'd be subjecting this person to with this, especially like the super existential state of the climate. So, I don't know. That's a whole other like layer that I'm vacillating about and continuing to feel through. And maybe I will just be selfish one day, but, and just like in general, like, is that the best like use of my resources and how I can be like useful, because it does take up a lot of your energy and money and time, and just, is that the way that I can best contribute to like the world? I don't know. Maybe I can do it all and it'll help me even have new sort of wells of energy in other ways. But it's hard for me to imagine like in Trump's America being like, woohoo, like I'm ready to do this right now. Anyway, would you like to respond? Because I know you're burning to respond to that.
Well, I wonder about that too. That is something when I see other people, when I see parents with little kids or pregnant, I do think about that. I think that they're probably thinking about it. Everyone's probably thinking about it. Sometimes I just wish I want to just ask them. And I'm sure that they would feel similarly. I see it the opposite in that I think that the era that we're in is ending a dark age, that somehow we still had kids, we still survived, we still managed to contribute and bring love into the world and do good things in the world. And I often feel that the new beings in the world, just like your generation has such, in many ways, better values and acceptance and awareness and all these things that we didn't have, you are all helping to usher in a new time. All the offspring of the people that have those different, more enlightened, more loving, more aware, more whole behavior are going to bring better people and better humans, and will help to solve and move us past this time period. So I think in a way, it's a belief in life.
It's an active hope or like resistant. I see what you're saying as, well, caving to fear, really, instead of like creating a new.
Caving to fear is never, I don't ever believe in that.
Yeah.
I don't ever believe in that.
I think both could be an act of resistance, though, too, just depending on how you hold it. But I hear what you're saying. Do you want to talk about like what it brings up for you? Like the idea if I ever were to not do it, like, is that a painful thought to you? As like, I imagine that you've kind of grown up assuming that you would be a grandparent, and also just where you're at with the idea of being a grandma.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that it's kind of, everything needs to be about alignment and synchronicity for it to be right. And I don't, in a certain way, feel ready to be a grandmother. It's almost like a family dynamic, all of this, in that I know Tim, Lily's dad, and my husband, we're still so, we feel we're in such a new beginning in our own lives, and in terms of our careers, in terms of our contribution to the world, in terms of our self-awareness. Not that a grandchild couldn't fit beautifully into that, and of course they would. But I don't feel like I'm completely in that place of that I would have a ton of the kind of space that I would really like to have.
That's interesting because I feel like so many of my friends' parents and just, like a parent of adult children in their like late 60s or 70s or whatever, like the archetype is that they're just like pressuring their kid and that's all they can think about is having grandkids. And I think the fact that you're not feeling that way fully is maybe a testament to how when you became an empty nester, you really reinvented your life again. Like you found a new purpose for your life than kids. I feel like maybe you feel a certain kind of like fulfillment in that makes it not feel like you're just waiting for us to have kids, like so that you can feel like that feeling again.
Yeah, and part of that is career, and part of that is obviously the work that I do with dogs and
I will say that it does seem you've channeled quite a bit of grandparent energy into the dogs, and I'm already nervous about the dynamic of if I have kids. My mom is like such a nurturer, like to the most extreme degree. I'm already nervous that like I'm gonna feel inadequate somehow next to your level of nurturing and like or / have to tell you that I'm gonna do it differently or I don't know. Because like whenever I bring my dog to your house to take care of her, I'm like, fuck, my dog likes her grandparents better than me. Like, cause you're so over the top with like everything that she gets when she's there. And I'm like, she's not gonna wanna come home.
Yeah, but that's part of the natural order. You know, their grandparents are different and they just provide different things. I saw a series on, I think they were apes. And, you know, this really goes back to the whole conflict and why it's so hard, because an ape, when they have a baby, doesn't put the baby down for a year. It might even be 2 years, holds the baby and doesn't put it down. That's what nature is telling this mother to do, that for the health of the child. I remember when you were little, the conflict was so torturous to have to put my children down or with other people and for long periods of time. It's the whole structure of it all is very difficult, and I think in a lot of ways creates probably a lot of trauma, and we would be a better society if we found better ways. And maybe that's the era we're moving into, more communal and better.
That'd be sick. I hope that's happening. Or I guess we have to create it. But
I didn't have anybody. I didn't have anybody to help me take over. That was someone that I hardly knew. And then, but I just want to say, and then the ape, when they put the child down, then the grandparent holds it.
Aww.
It says a lot. And it says a lot about why maybe we're in such a traumatized society and why we have the problems we have and how it all really needs to get thought out in a different way and in a way that is connected to truth, all truths.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're saying good, like ending stuff. I feel like there are a few things coming to my mind that I didn't say of like other things that I think about when thinking about this, but
Like what?
I just feel like anxiety-wise, I don't know. I mean, I'm an anxious person to begin with, and it just seems like the world today is so intense, the phones, everything's so intense, and it just seems like, damn, like, I'm curious, do you feel like having a kid or being a mom made you more anxious, or was a source of relief from your mind?
Priority.
Because
no.
to me, sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, just more fear. Like, now I'm going to mess not only my life up, but this other person's life up.
No, I think it reprioritizes and grounds you.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It'll make you put your phone down.
That'd be great. Would love to do that. I'm so addicted.
So it's kind of relieving that way. I find it relieving when I go and I take care of all the rescue dogs. I don't look at my phone at all. It's like, you can't do it.
Which is probably why my dog is so anxious, because I do look at my phone every time I'm walking my dog. I can't make the mistakes on a child that I've made on my poor Chihuahua.
But anyway, at the same time, I feel that both you and Lewis have been my greatest teachers. You know, your relationships are your greatest teachers. And obviously a parent and child relationship, there's a tremendous amount of teaching and learning about yourself. And that's part of the beauty of it. There's no such thing as being perfect at it. And everyone has their own journey and their own things to learn. You can't avoid that. You can't skip that. That's part of being here, because you're in a body and you're not God. You're going to be imperfect.
Damn. I'm going to be imperfect. I think I feel at peace today about my path You could ask me again in a week when I'm jacked up on hormones if I'm still feeling at peace. But I feel aligned that it's not my time yet.
I didn't totally answer the question, how would I feel if you didn't have them?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Having kids really makes getting older
Less scary.
I can't imagine.
Oh, yeah, like not having someone to take care of you. Yeah, that does seem scary.
Well, no, not just take care of me, but just, I heard someone say the other day, if you have anyone that's here where their life would be really disrupted and greatly saddened and emptied if you weren't there, then you're the luckiest person in the world. Almost like no matter what they're doing or what the conflicts are or all the things that you go through, just that someone feels that way about you. I can't imagine growing older and facing the end of your life and, I don't know, just not having that type of love, I guess. I'm sure people find it in all different kinds of ways, obviously. And because I have it so much with all of you, I don't have it in other ways, and I would. So, there's all different kinds of ways you can have it. And also, if you decided not to and Lewis decided not to, I'd be really, it would be a big sadness. It would be
a grief. You'd have to grieve.
Yeah, it would be a grief.
I mean, probably same for me too. If I decided to not do it,
it would be a loss of a
dream,
of a vision. Yeah. And I know people, I'm not a grandparent, so I haven't experienced it, but the people that I know that are having the time of their lives. They're just on cloud nine.
Yeah, it seems great to be enjoying the kid without having to actually feel the full responsibility for their life.
And you get another chance at everything too. Yeah, you get another chance to be smarter and do it better.
For you, that would be not protecting them from ever feeling pain.
Oh God,
That's going to be the thing that I try to do differently if I do this, which will be hard for me, I think, but to try to let the kid fall a little and pick themselves back up, which you didn't love. You didn't want us to fall. And that wasn't maybe always the best for the
No, it was not good. It definitely was. It was definitely not good. I was in so much pain that I wasn't even aware of, that I thought that there was a way to stop you from having any pain. Little did I know that that's completely impossible in life in the world. And not only impossible, but that pain is actually a teacher and totally part of the joy.
Okay. Thanks everyone for listening. Happy Mother's Day.
Yes, thank you all for being here. We love you all. We love this community and are so grateful to all of you. And happy, happy, happy Mother's Day, however, which way Mother's Day is for you.